Well, the screaming voice certainly made me think of Cage, you know, and how long you press that, and how I thought the visuals really made that kind of sound, you know, necessary to linger. The image and the relationship of that sound had a very, it kept me more interested in the sound in a way that it might not have.
I mean, Andresen has a peculiar, and maybe you're sympathetic to this, relationship with the whole notion of bel canto singing. You know, he doesn't like big vibrato Wagnerian voice, and so he chooses singers in association, secondarily with me, in terms of looks and persona and ability to act on stage. But they all have a roughness. You know, they're not that. I mean, they're professional singers and they've done a lot of work, but he admires that rough edge to it all.
Yeah.
I must say, though, there were a lot more bel canto singing in Vermeer than there was in this, so maybe he's mellowing a little. Yeah.
I felt myself holding back from entering into what was quite an extraordinary experience, because I knew it would end in an hour and a half. And, for example, Einstein on the Beach, which was, I believe, 4.5 hours.
With 2 intervals, and knee plays as well. Yes.
Yeah. I found that I could relax and really let myself go to that really extraordinary place, and ended up with a feeling of, you know, needing to take another 4.5 hours to come back, at least. So, yeah, just that as a comment, I felt myself holding back because I knew it was going to end in an hour and a half, and I didn't really let myself go to that place of incredible abandon that I might have if it was 4 hours long.
The opera was, I think, probably about 50 minutes longer. The necessities of television program, we had to make it to the ubiquitous 90 minutes. But I think what is missing, there's one more solo by the female character, and there's an extension of the figure of Rosa on the cross, which continues in falsetto for much longer. You just see the edges of it here, and I'm never very happy about this, but the end of the crucifixion on horseback scene, there's an extraordinary rain machine in this very sophisticated opera house, and it rains. And you feel the sense of the dust and the violence settling. It's a really beautiful moment. And all the audience, you know, will relax before the finale. It was a prelude in a way to all that water we used.
And Vermeer recognized that effect.
Nevertheless, it was extraordinary. Thank you.
Just one other question. I was wondering. Sorry, I was wondering if there was an attempt maybe to get some of Rosa's music and maybe weave that in or not. I was wondering if maybe, you know, sort of being in a sense an archaeologist, going into his work, which, since you did go into his life and the text surrounding it, was anything found or?
Yeah, sorry, I've also forgotten, in the shortening process, there's about 2 minutes of all these credits are rolled up on stage. They're all typical archetypal, the ghost goes west, those sorts of titles. I think he collaborated with increasing control, because he was always given credits about this small when he began, not surprisingly. But by the time, in I think 1952, when he was getting well known in Hollywood, the credits were getting pretty big. And he earned a lot of money on it too. He tried to exemplify all these falling greenbacks.
But what I was referring to would be some of his music. Actually incorporated
you have to drag the films out of the archives.
I see.
And I could give you a list if you were interested.
No, that's
it is possible to listen to it. Okay. But again, you know, the inevitable association of music and film, which always puts music in a secondary or tertiary position. I'd always tried, certainly in my relationship with Michael Nyman, for example, to make tracks. He'd always based our enthusiasms on a film like Alexander Nevsky by Prokofiev and Eisenstein, where apparently musical and visual apparatus and structures had all been worked out before anybody actually made anything. And I would imagine, certainly if you read the books, they've got to be a bit careful here, of course, because the notions of Eisenstein's Mary Seton biography, you get all the diagrams to show how the black and white respond to the music and the image. But when you examine them, it all becomes just a little apocryphal in the end, and you wonder really what that collaboration was all about. There have, of course, and I'm sure you've got your own private list, good examples of music-film collaboration. But by and large, what happens is the film has primacy. The editor virtually finishes, and somebody, the producer, the director, virtually picks up a phone or whatever else is necessary for communication with not so much a composer, but a man or a woman who writes music, who's a different sort of animal. And they come along and basically embellish and decorate something, a structure which already exists, which I think is far down the line for a successful, really music-image collaboration.
Thank you.
Do you think watching this piece in a theater, you can really, I don't know, for me it's a documentary of something that it's not there anymore. And it's a totally different thing, you said this before. But this is like, it's a sort of a process in your work that you're letting go of things. It's the opposite that you do, because you're always collecting. How do you feel about that?
I'm not quite sure what sort of answer you would expect me to give. Can you slightly rephrase your question?
Yeah, of course. This experience is the opposite that you used to do, because you're always collecting things. And this kind of using a film, filming a opera and putting in a theater, it's the opposite experience. Because when you're editing, you're letting go of things. You cannot really do exactly, you cannot record absolutely everything that happened. I just want to know what you think about that.
Well, if I go back to that first statement, when I say basically, really, opera is unfilmable because its own characteristics. And as soon as you introduce the notion of the cut, it's already an interruption in space and time. And basically, of course, it's unsatisfactory. So I think if you want to make some manufacture which refers to the notion of music theatre, you have to find another way of doing it, using the opera itself as raw material, but making an application for all those things which, in some peculiar way, are often desired in an opera, like close-ups, like comprehensibility of lyric. So we actually have allowed those, because I think it's now legitimate, because it's turned into a flat-screen film rather than three-dimensional opera. Also, I think, which is very important, that there's only one good seat in every cinema. It's right in the middle, G9 somewhere.
Perspective.
And
The
perspective.
traditional, yes.
And in the theatre, every seat has a different perspective. And the stage has depth and it has width. And even if you're way off on the side there are still ways and means it can be particularly exciting. So that Mrs. Bloggs, way over there, is not saying the same as Mr. Bloggs over there. And that in itself is worth manoeuvring and using as a language. But you don't have that potential here because the viewpoint is a simple one. Okay, I'm glad you enjoyed it. Maybe say again.